From popularizing the shoot-'em-up genre with Space Invaders to linking a bunch of monitors together to create a super-wide display for Darius 2, Taito is one of those companies constantly pushing the technological boundaries to create unforgettable action games. This was definitely true in the mid-1990s when the shooter genre started to break free of their 2D confines and dabble in the 3D worlds created out of polygons. Two of my favorite games from that era were RayStorm and RayCrisis, a couple of classic shoot-'em-ups that have now been packaged together in a brand new HD collection from ININ Games. Is this a must-own for genre fans? Or just another overpriced compilation from Taito? That's what we're about to find out when I review RayStorm Cross RayCrisis HD Collection. Before the Storm or the Crisis, there was Rayforce, a vertical shooter from 1994 that confusingly also went by the names Layers Section and Galactic Attack. Well, it's a fairly traditional shoot-'em-up with a cool lock-on system and detailed pixel graphics. You can definitely see the developers wanting to push that technology as far as it could go with inventive level designs that employ a lot of cool 3D effects. Perhaps that's why it wasn't a huge surprise to see the 1996 follow-up, RayStorm, dive headfirst into a completely polygonal 3D world. RayStorm takes everything that was great about Rayforce and gives it a new, cinematic quality that remains surprisingly effective a quarter century later. It's the distant future, and once again, humanity is under the threat of being wiped out by a being known as Conhuman, which is, of course, a computer for planetary management that has evolved into a sentient machine. We've already survived one wave of attack, but defeating them a second time may come with a catastrophic price: the destruction of Earth! Now, much like Rayforce, the sequel is also a top-down vertical shooter with multiple layers of fast-paced action. Our little experimental ship comes equipped with not only a standard gun for taking out the enemies in the air, but also a laser that will blow up the ground units below. What sets this apart from Xevious is that we're able to lock onto a bunch of enemies at the same time, which will both clear out the battlefield in a hurry and also give the players a nice score multiplier. There's also a super powerful mega bomb that you can deploy when it's all charged up, but most of the gameplay involves the playful dance between shooting your gun and locking on with the laser beam. What makes this game so great is that the levels are specifically designed to force you to use both types of attacks at the exact same time. I mean, look, we've flown over the ocean before in plenty of shoot-'em-ups, but this one actually requires you to look at what's under the water and attack it before it gets you. And thanks to the use of 3D polygons, it's common to see an enemy start out on the ground and then fly up into the air, forcing you to take them on in a brand new way. The 8 stages and their mech bosses are all designed to take full advantage of this layer gimmick, and I love every bit of it. The same is true of the 1998 sequel, RayCrisis, which is actually a prequel to the events of the previous game. Although it's set in a somewhat weird cyberspace environment, the level designs remain pretty much the same. We are once again treated to speedy stages that whip around the environment and really show off the 3D effect, while asking us to simultaneously take out the Conhuman mechs using both bullets and lock-on lasers. While technically a prequel, this is a game that definitely plays into the sequel rule of making everything bigger and more explosive. We can target more enemies at once, and the levels are bigger and more detailed than ever before. Don't even get me started on the new boss designs. Now, one of the big changes to RayCrisis is in the way that it doles out the levels. Instead of taking you on a linear path through all the other levels like the first 2 games in this series, the game will actually select a few stages for you to play in a row, adding some much-needed replay value. There are also multiple endings that will of course depend on how good you are at the game. Other changes include how the super mega ultra powerful weapon works and some important scoring tweaks. Of the 2 games, RayCrisis is substantially easier than RayStorm, though I think I prefer the sequel to the prequel. Even with the graphical boost, I preferred the level designs in RayStorm and found myself constantly going back to it. The stages in RayCrisis are shorter and not as interesting, and the random nature of it means that you could get a few lame stages in a row, and that kinda sucks. That said, I found RayStorm to be a lot more challenging, so I could see a lot of people far preferring the final game in the trilogy. Now, when it comes down to these shooters, I don't have a whole lot of complaints. These are two great games from the mid-1990s, and they definitely come with the pros and cons of shooters from that time period. From the gobbledygook stories to the predictable action, these games check off all of the shoot-'em-up cliches. There are also some issues related to the layering gameplay and 3D visuals, such as not always knowing if you're supposed to shoot at the enemy or blast them with your targeted laser beam. For the most part, these problems aren't going to get in the way of actually having any fun, especially if you're the type of shoot-'em-up fan that is interested in this type of compilation. As a package, RayStorm Cross RayCrisis HD Collection is fine. Yeah, this is another one of those barebones releases from Taito, but at least it allows you to switch between the original versions of the game and the HD remasters. This is a cool addition that really shows off the difference between then and now. I'd say that RayStorm benefits more from the HD upgrade than RayCrisis, but there are sections of both games that look a little rough. While it's definitely lacking in the extras department, I was impressed with the options menu. We're able to customize a lot of the normal things, such as adjusting the scan lines and remapping the controller, as well as tinkering with things you might not even have thought of, like changing the difficulty of individual levels. We also get a bunch of screen options, including different backgrounds. We actually get a surprising amount of control with these two games. For me, the biggest disappointment is the lack of Ray Force. I mean, it's great having these two games packaged together, but why not complete the trilogy by including the game that started it all? It may not be 3D, but that's no reason not to put it in the package. At $40, this game needs as much content as it can get, and it's extremely disappointing to see it left out. It's also a shame that this package doesn't give us more historical context or images of the cabinets. I don't know. I think that these two boundary-pushing shooters deserve something better than a barebones compilation. Like the name suggests, RayStorm Cross RayCrisis HD Collection brings two incredible shoot-'em-ups together, complete with both their original versions and the HD upgrades. Both games are known for their fast-paced action, expertly crafted level designs, and gameplay that has us firing bullets and locking on with laser beams all at the same time. While the games are certainly worth playing, the barebones approach to this compilation is disappointing. It's also overpriced, which will likely limit the appeal of these classic shooters. RayStorm Cross RayCrisis HD Collection is good, but at $40, it's for die-hard fans only. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite 1990s shoot-'em-up? Do you like the pixel stuff from the early part of the decade, or are you more of a 3D fan? Let me tell you, there were some real bangers in the mid to late 1990s, so I can't wait to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a new episode of the Nintendo Switch Online Review Crew. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,